I'm going to ask Maurice Dubois to come up here and make love to me right in front of Ricky.
For decades, Lucille Ball made television history. She made people laugh and became one of the most recognizable faces in entertainment. But what many fans don't know is that her television story didn't end the way the public thinks it did. Near the end of her life, Lucy created one final TV special, one that was filmed, set aside, and never shown when it was supposed to be. Today, that missing chapter is finally being talked about. Join us as we uncover the story behind Lucille Ball's final television special, A Childhood Shaped by Loss. Lucille Desiree Ball was born on August 6, 1911, in Jamestown, New York. From the very beginning, her life was filled with change. Her father, Henry Ball, worked as a lineman for Bell Telephone, a job that required the family to move often. As a young child, Lucy lived in several places, including Montana and New Jersey. This constant relocation meant she never stayed in one place long enough to feel fully settled. Even before tragedy struck, Lucy's early years were unstable and unpredictable. That instability became something much deeper in 1915, when Lucy was only 3 years old. While the family was living in Michigan, her father suddenly died from typhoid fever at just 27 years old. Lucy was too young to fully understand death, but the shock of losing her father left a lasting emotional mark. The safety and structure he represented disappeared overnight. Her mother was pregnant at the time, and soon after, Lucy's younger brother, Fred, was born. With 2 children and no husband, Lucy's mother moved the family back to New York, searching for stability where family support existed. One moment from the day her father died stayed with Lucy for the rest of her life. A bird had become trapped inside their home, flying wildly around the room. For a small child already overwhelmed by fear and confusion, the image was terrifying. Lucy later said that moment caused a lifelong fear of birds, known as ornithophobia. Even as an adult, she avoided birds whenever possible. It was a small detail, but it showed how deeply early fear stayed with her. Everything changed when Lucy was 12. Her stepfather encouraged her to join a Shriner chorus line. Standing on stage for the first time, she felt something new. The applause made her feel noticed and valued. After years of loss, fear, and correction, being cheered felt powerful. That moment planted a need for performance that would guide her entire life. And this was only the beginning of the long road that would test that need again and again. Rejection before reinvention. As Lucy got older, her dream of performing didn't fade. It got stronger, but her teenage years were messy and stressful, and the adults around her were worried about the direction she was heading. When she was about 14, Lucy started dating a man named Johnny DeVita, who was 21. Her mother did not approve at all. To her, this relationship felt like danger. She feared Lucy would get stuck in a life far away from the future she secretly hoped her daughter could have. So her mother made a bold move. Instead of trying to crush Lucy's interest in show business, she used it to pull her away from trouble. Even though money was tight, she found a way to send Lucy to the John Murray Anderson School for the Dramatic Arts in New York City. It was a serious place with serious expectations. Lucy wasn't just going there to play around. This was supposed to train her to become a professional performer. But once she arrived, things didn't go the way she imagined. Lucy wanted encouragement and tools to grow. Instead, she ran into harsh judgment. Teachers didn't see her as special. They didn't think she had natural talent. Lucy later said that all she learned there was how to be frightened. That sentence says a lot. It shows how deeply the experience shook her. Being told you're not good enough, especially when you already feel unsure of yourself, can leave a scar. For Lucy, the criticism didn't just hurt in the moment. It stayed in her head. Just as she started finding her footing, her body betrayed her. Lucy became seriously ill with rheumatic fever. The illness hit hard and forced her to stop working for 2 full years. For a young woman trying to break into a tough industry, 2 years can feel like forever. She wasn't only losing time, she was losing momentum, connections, and confidence. She had already been rejected from drama school, and now her health was taking away her second chance. Next comes the part where she pushes back into the business, taking small jobs, taking hits, and refusing to disappear. Broadway disappointments. After illness slowed her down for years, Lucy pushed herself back into working life with a clear goal: get on stage and build a real career. She returned to New York and aimed for Broadway, like so many young performers did. The problem was that Broadway was crowded, competitive, and not gentle to beginners. Lucy auditioned for chorus jobs, group roles where you sing, dance, and blend into the background, while hoping someone important notices you. She had the drive, but she kept running into the same wall. She wasn't getting stable work. When she did get hired, it often didn't last. Lucy was sometimes brought in by big theatrical producers and then quickly let go. That kind of start-and-stop work can mess with a person's confidence. One week you feel close to success, and the next week you're out again, wondering what you did wrong. It also made life unstable. Without a steady role, there was no steady money, no steady path forward, and no guarantee that the next audition would be any better. During this time, Lucy also tried out stage names, including Diane Belmont. That detail matters because it shows how much she was still searching for the right version of herself to present to the world. A stage name can feel like a fresh start, but changing your name also shows uncertainty. Lucy wasn't only trying to get cast, she was trying to figure out what type of performer people would accept and what kind of identity would open doors. Eventually, her break didn't come from Broadway at all. It came from film. In 1933, she landed a small role as a dancer in a movie called Roman Scandals. That job led to a bigger decision. She moved to Hollywood for good. This was a major turning point. Hollywood offered more opportunities than Broadway did, but it also came with a different kind of struggle. In the studio system, actors were often treated like pieces on a board. You could be used, replaced, or forgotten quickly. Lucy spent much of the 1930s taking small parts. Many were uncredited or clearly secondary. That means she wasn't the star the audience came to see. She was the other girl, the funny side character, the pretty face, or the person in the background who helped move the story along. She worked a lot, but steady work is not the same as real recognition. Acting beside famous people didn't automatically make you famous too. Still, she got experience that most performers would dream of. She appeared in films connected to major comedy and musical talent. She worked around huge stars, watched how professionals handled cameras and timing, and learned what played well on screen. But even with that, the big roles didn't arrive right away. Hollywood had a way of deciding what someone was, and then refusing to see anything else. And just when it seemed like she might stay stuck there forever, a new path opened, one that didn't start on a movie set at all. Radio salvation. By the late 1930s and into the 1940s, Lucy had worked hard in Hollywood, but she still wasn't getting the kind of roles that matched her ambition. Movies gave her experience, but they didn't always give her control. That's one reason radio became so important. Radio didn't depend on looks or typecasting in the same way film did. It depended on voice, timing, personality, and the ability to make people feel something through sound alone. For Lucy, it became a creative lifeline, a place where she could sharpen her comedy and show more of what she could really do. That shift paid off in a big way in 1948. When she landed the lead role of Liz Cooper in the CBS radio sitcom My Favorite Husband. The show became a hit. Week after week, listeners tuned in because Lucy's character felt real, funny, and relatable. Radio also gave her something else: consistency. Instead of jumping from small film part to small film part, she had a steady platform where her comedic voice could develop and become recognizable. During her radio years, Lucy also formed one of the most important professional friendships of her life. She met Gail Gordon, a talented actor who would become one of her closest creative partners. They clicked because they understood timing the same way and trusted each other's instincts. Gail wasn't just another co-worker. He became someone Lucy could rely on. Someone who could support her comedy without trying to steal the spotlight. That kind of bond is rare, and Lucy held on to it for decades. Around this time, Lucy's personal life was also changing. In 1940, she met Desi Arnaz while working on Too Many Girls, and their relationship turned into marriage. Desi was charming, talented, and full of energy. But he was also a risk in the eyes of the television business that was starting to grow. Lucy didn't want to build a TV career without him. When CBS became interested in turning My Favorite Husband into a television show, Lucy agreed, but only if Desi played her husband on screen. CBS pushed back hard. Network executives were worried that audiences would reject an interracial couple in a lead sitcom, especially with Desi being Cuban and Lucy being a red-headed American woman. They didn't want controversy, and they didn't want to gamble on something they couldn't control. Lucy and Desi refused to give up. They believed the chemistry that worked in real life would work in front of an audience too. So they did something smart and bold. They created a live stage act with a simple, funny setup. Lucy played a housewife trying to join her husband's band, and Desi used his music and charisma to drive the performance. This wasn't just entertainment, it was proof. Night after night, audiences responded well. People laughed, people clapped, people accepted them as a couple. The tour gave CBS what they needed: clear evidence that Lucy and Desi together could draw a crowd. That success opened the door for I Love Lucy, which premiered in 1951. The show didn't slowly build, it exploded. Viewers connected instantly to the comedy, the marriage dynamic, and Lucy's fearless physical humor. Lucy wasn't playing a perfect woman. She was messy, emotional, ambitious, and often getting herself into trouble, which made her feel human. Desi's reactions, music, and charm completed the balance. Together, they created something that didn't feel like a typical TV experiment. It felt like a new kind of television. And once I Love Lucy hit big, the next battle wasn't about getting on the air anymore. It was about taking control behind the scenes, too. Reinventing television. When I Love Lucy became a hit, Lucy could have stayed focused only on performing. Instead, she made choices that quietly changed television forever. One of the biggest decisions involved how the show was filmed. At the time, most TV programs were broadcast live from New York and recorded using kinescope, a low-quality method that pointed a camera at a television screen. The result looked blurry and didn't age well. Lucy and Desi didn't want that. They wanted the show filmed in Los Angeles so they could stay near home, and they wanted it done right. They proposed filming I Love Lucy on 35mm film, the same high-quality film used for movies. This was expensive and risky, and CBS didn't like the idea at first. It meant higher production costs and a slower process. To make it work, Lucy and Desi offered to take a pay cut. In exchange, they asked for something that didn't seem important at the time: ownership of the filmed episodes after they aired. CBS agreed, believing the episodes had little value once broadcast. That decision would turn out to be one of the biggest mistakes the network ever made. As television grew, reruns became incredibly valuable. Stations wanted content they could air again and again, and I Love Lucy was perfect for that. CBS eventually realized what they had given away. In 1957, they paid Lucy and Desi about $1 million to buy back the rights. That money helped the couple purchase the old RKO studio lot and turn it into Desilu Studios. With that move, Lucy became much more than a star. She became a studio executive. Running Desilu was not symbolic. Lucy was deeply involved in decisions. After her divorce from Desi, she became the first woman to run a major television studio on her own. This was rare in an industry dominated by men, especially at that level. Lucy approved scripts, hired producers, and made tough calls about which shows moved forward. She trusted her instincts, even when others doubted her. Those instincts led to groundbreaking television. Desilu produced Star Trek, a show many executives thought was too strange and risky. Lucy believed in it and gave it a chance. The same was true for Mission, Impossible, and The Untouchables. These shows were different from traditional TV at the time. They were serious and bold and pushed storytelling forward. Lucy may not have starred in them, but her influence shaped their success. All of this happened while her personal life was falling apart. Her marriage to Desi was under constant strain from work pressure, long hours, and his behavior away from home. Lucy was balancing creative control, business leadership, and emotional pain at the same time. She stayed professional even when things were breaking privately. That strength came at a cost, but she never stepped away from responsibility. The Red Scare scandal. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, the United States was caught in intense fear about communism. This period is often called the Red Scare. Many Americans believed communist ideas were secretly spreading through government, schools, unions, and the entertainment industry. In Hollywood, this fear turned into real consequences. Actors, writers, and directors could lose their jobs overnight if they were even suspected of having communist ties. Studios didn't want bad publicity, and they often cut people off to protect themselves. This led to blacklists, unofficial lists of people who were shut out of work, sometimes without proof and without a fair chance to explain. Lucille Ball became part of this storm because of something she had done years earlier. In 1936, long before I Love Lucy, Lucy filled out a voter registration card and listed her political party as communist. Her brother and mother reportedly did the same. Later, Lucy said she didn't do it because she believed in communism. She said she did it to please her grandfather, who had strong political beliefs and wanted her support. She cared about him and felt pressure to do what he asked. At the time, it may have seemed like a small family favor. Years later, it looked like evidence of something dangerous. The scandal became public in a dramatic way. In 1953, a newspaper ran a story about Lucy with a headline printed in red ink, highlighting the accusation like an alarm. That kind of presentation mattered because the color red was strongly linked with communism. To many readers, it suggested guilt before Lucy even spoke. For a major TV star, this was terrifying. Lucy's career depended on public trust. If audiences believed she was secretly un-American, sponsors could leave. Networks could panic, and the show could collapse. Then the story grew. A Hollywood writer named Rena Vale, who described herself as a communist, claimed she attended a meeting at Lucy's house in 1937. Vale said there was a new member class there, and that someone at the event suggested Lucy allowed it. That claim made the situation feel worse. A voter registration form might be explained away, but the idea of meetings at her home sounded more serious to the public. Lucy decided not to hide. Instead of waiting to be dragged into an investigation, she voluntarily met with an investigator connected to the House Un-American Activities Committee, the government group known for questioning suspected communist ties in entertainment. She gave sealed testimony and explained her side clearly. She said she had registered as a communist only because her grandfather wanted it. She said she never attended communist meetings and never actively supported communist ideas. She also said that if her name appeared on any sponsorship forms or committees, it was done without her knowledge or real involvement. After her testimony, the FBI reviewed her file. The materials were reportedly forwarded to J. Edgar Hoover, and the FBI ultimately found no reason to keep watching her. In other words, she was cleared. Officially, she wasn't treated as a threat. And just as Lucy survived that threat, even bigger personal and professional battles were waiting right around the corner. Divorce and reinvention. By the late 1950s, the marriage between Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz was no longer what the public saw on television. On screen, they played a loving, bickering couple full of charm and laughter. Off-screen, the relationship was strained and painful. Years of non-stop work, long separations, and Desi's behavior outside the marriage created deep tension. Lucy had already filed for divorce once before and withdrawn it, hoping things might improve. But by 1960, she knew the marriage could not be saved. On March 3, 1960, just one day after Desi's birthday, and shortly after filming their final Lucy-Desi Comedy Hour episode, Lucy filed for divorce again. This time, it was final. In court documents, she described life with Desi as emotionally unbearable and far removed from the happy image people saw on television. The divorce was finalized on May 4, 1960. It marked the end of one of the most famous marriages in entertainment history. Even so, Lucy and Desi remained respectful toward each other in public and continued to share concern for their children. After the divorce, Lucy made a clear personal and professional decision. In her future television work, she refused to play a married woman again. Instead, she often played widows or single women. This choice reflected more than a creative preference. It was her way of separating her real life from the fantasy audiences expected. She had lived too long blending marriage and performance, and she wanted clear boundaries going forward. Soon after, Lucy took on a new challenge on Broadway. She starred in the musical Wildcat in 1960. The role demanded energy, stamina, and a strong physical presence. Unfortunately, Lucy's health worked against her. She became ill during the run and missed performances. The show closed earlier than expected. During Wildcat, Lucy met comedian Gary Morton. He was younger than her and very different from Desi. At the time, he had never even seen an episode of I Love Lucy. That didn't matter. What mattered was how he treated her. Gary was calm, steady, and supportive. He didn't compete with her success or try to control her career. Their relationship grew naturally, without public drama. Lucy and Gary married on November 19, 1961. This marriage gave Lucy something she hadn't fully experienced before: emotional stability. Gary respected her intelligence and trusted her judgment. Lucy, in turn, brought him into her professional world. She taught him the television business and later promoted him within her production company. Their partnership was built on trust, honesty, and teamwork, rather than pressure and chaos. And with that personal stability in place, she turned her focus to staying relevant in a changing television world that was becoming harder to recognize. The unfinished goodbye. After the disappointment of life with Lucy, many people assumed Lucille Ball was done with television. But Lucy didn't see it that way. In the late 1980s, she signed a deal with NBC to create a final comedy special. It was meant to be a late career return, not a weekly sitcom, but a one-time event that would let her reconnect with audiences on her own terms. NBC believed that even after recent setbacks, Lucy's name still carried meaning and history. The plan for the special was simpler and more personal than her past shows. It was designed to highlight her strengths without demanding the physical energy of a full series. The format leaned toward classic Lucy-style comedy, supported by familiar faces and gentle setups rather than fast pacing. The intention was not to compete with modern sitcoms, but to offer audiences a chance to spend time with Lucy one more time. It was meant to feel warm, controlled, and respectful of who she was at that stage of her life. But problems began to appear quickly. Lucy's health was no longer reliable. She had already suffered serious health issues in the years before, and production schedules became harder to manage. Filming took longer than expected, and there were concerns about how much she could physically handle in front of the camera. These weren't just rumors. People involved could see that Lucy tired more easily, even though she pushed herself to keep going. At the same time, NBC became cautious. Life with Lucy had failed publicly, and networks were very sensitive to ratings and criticism. Executives worried that airing another Lucy project too soon might invite more negative attention. Instead of being remembered as a celebration, the special could be judged harshly, and that risk made the network hesitate. The footage that was shot was quietly set aside. There was no big announcement, no public explanation. It simply stopped moving forward. Inside the industry, a belief had started to settle in. Many executives felt that Lucy's era had passed. Television had changed, and networks were focused on younger audiences, faster humor, and different styles of storytelling. To them, Lucy represented television history, not television's future. That attitude made it easier to shelve the project rather than fight for it. Lucy was aware that the special wasn't moving forward. People close to her said she understood what was happening, even if it hurt. She didn't publicly complain. Instead, she accepted it quietly, though the delay added to her feeling that television had slowly closed its doors to her. She had spent her life fighting to be seen, and now her final work sat unseen. And just when it seemed that goodbye would never be shared, time created a second chance that no one expected. Death, burial, and rediscovery. In late 1986, Desi Arnaz was very ill. Years of heavy drinking had damaged his health, and by the end of his life, his body was failing. He was weak and tired, and those close to him knew the end was near. Even though Lucille Ball and Desi had been divorced for more than 25 years, they never fully cut emotional ties. They shared children, history, and a life that had changed television forever. As Desi's condition worsened, that connection quietly returned to the front. 2 days before Desi died, Lucy made a private phone call to him. It was not for the public. It was not for closure in a dramatic sense. It was simply Lucy reaching out to the man she had once loved deeply. During the call, she kept repeating 3 words, "I love you." She didn't talk about the past in detail. She didn't bring up old fights or regrets. She stayed focused on the present moment. Desi listened, weak but aware. Hearing Lucy's voice brought him comfort. Their daughter, Lucy Arnaz, witnessed the moment. She later shared that the call was deeply emotional and stayed with her for the rest of her life. To her, it showed that love doesn't disappear just because a marriage ends. Lucy and Desi didn't reunite, and they didn't rewrite history. But in that call, they found peace. Lucy gave Desi reassurance when he needed it most, and Desi received it without resistance. It was a quiet reconciliation, not as husband and wife, but as 2 people who had once shared everything. Desi Arnaz died shortly after that call. For Lucy, the moment marked the true end of a long chapter. She never spoke publicly about the call in detail, but those close to her understood how much it meant. It was her final goodbye to Desi, spoken in private and without performance. Just a few years later, Lucy's own life came to an end. On April 26, 1989, Lucille Ball died at the age of 77, following complications from heart surgery. The news shocked fans around the world. Even though she had been less visible in her final years, people still felt a strong connection to her. She had been part of their homes for decades. Lucy was cremated, and her ashes were initially placed at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in the Hollywood Hills, where her mother was also buried. Years later, in 2002, her remains were moved to Lakeview Cemetery in Jamestown, New York. This was done according to her wishes. She wanted to rest near her hometown, close to her mother, where her story began. After her death, interest in Lucy's unreleased and unfinished work slowly grew. Fans and historians began asking questions about projects that were never shown, including her final television special. Over time, archived footage was reviewed and restored. What had once been quietly shelved was finally treated with care and respect. When the lost material was eventually shown to modern audiences, the reaction was emotional. Viewers didn't focus on what Lucy couldn't do anymore. They focused on her presence, her timing, and her familiar warmth. Seeing Lucy one last time felt personal, like hearing from an old friend. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe for more.